Welcome to ATC CAD. My name's David Atkins. Today's episode's a little bit different than usual. Instead of a scripted, planned idea, I've got a real project that I'm working on. This is a large subdivision that I've been doing design for, and unfortunately, we got changes. The wetland survey came back and it was quite a bit different from the previous one that we had before, which necessitates us moving all of our basic parcels around. Plus, the client decided to split the project into a Phase 2 and a Phase 3. Phase 1 has already been built, and we have to renumber and reassociate all the stuff, which means it's going to have to be done from scratch once again. Quite a bit of setup has already been done here. I've rearranged all my roads and rearranged the basic parcel limitations and set them up as polylines in an external file. I've also added 25-foot setbacks around the inside perimeter of all of these just to make sure that I know where I've got some additional lot width I need to account for. I've created some parcel styles as well. In the Settings tab of the tool space, I've created different parcel styles for the different kinds of parcels that I'm creating. There's not a lot of difference between any of them. Mostly, it's just the color that's been assigned to it. With that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start putting together the brand new parcels. This first area is going to consist of what we're calling 41-foot wide single-family home lots. By the name, you can tell they're going to be 41-foot wide. However, for this first lot, because of this setback, I need to make it quite a bit wider, 61 feet, in order to account for that setback. To start with, I'm going to come up to Parcel, create Parcel from Objects, and when I try to click on this polyline that I've already created, nothing happens. That's because it's an XREF. I'm going to come down to my command line and click on the XREF option, and now I can select that polyline and press Enter. I've also created two different phase sites. This allows me to turn them on and off individually. I'm going to choose Phase 2 because this is the Phase 2 area. I am using the 41-foot single-family parcel style I'd already created. And I'm using this parcel number area label style because I'm just putting a number in here. I could go ahead and do my line segment labels. For now, I'm choosing not to because this is still preliminary. And I don't need to put those bearings in here just yet. And click OK. Here you can see it's given it the parcel number 1, and it's created this parcel as a single monolithic entity. This is exactly where I want to start. While all of these are going to essentially be the same, this first one is going to be a little bit different. Because I have this side setback, it needs to be wider than all the other ones. So when I start my Parcel Creation Tools command, I'm going to make a couple of different changes than what I would for the other ones. I'm going to set the minimum area of 7,800 square feet. I'm going to give a minimum frontage of 61 feet, which is going to come out wrong. I know it's going to. We'll deal with it in a minute. I can see that my frontage offset is 25 feet. Everything else I'm just going to leave alone. I don't really need to change much of anything else. But the most important part is I only want to do this first parcel. So rather than subdividing it or anything like that, I am going to just create a parcel from the remainder, just going to split it out from the rest of it. With that accomplished, I'm going to hit this icon here and choose a slide line create. Let it know it's going to be on Phase 2, 41-foot single-family parcel, parcel number, everything's looking good. I can click OK. Move this out of the way for a minute. While I select the parcel that I want to subdivide, the parcel label is what I want to click on, and I have to define where I want my frontage to begin. I want this to be considered the front of this lot, so I just click here, move to the right, and click again when I feel like I've got the area that I want. Next, it asks me for the angle I want my lot line to be. This is the angle from the frontage, so I'll type in 90 and hit Enter. That looks pretty good. I'm going to accept this result. It's letting me know it can't do any more, so that's fine. And I'm going to hit escape to get out of the command. Now, technically this is supposed to be 61 feet from here, but because of this curved line, I know it's going to be a little bit wrong, so I'm just going to double check it. Typing DI to start the distance command, I'm going to go from the intersection of this line to the perpendicular of this line, and I'm finding out it's 59.676. Should be 61. If I type CAL, I can start the calculator command inside of it, and I can say 61 minus 59.676, and I can see I need to move it to the right 1.324. That's easy to do. Click on this line, expose the grip, click on it, and move it to the right. I need to move it over 1.324. With that done, I can double check my setting one more time. DI for distance, going from the intersection to the perpendicular. And indeed, it is 61 feet. Marvelous. Now that I have my first weird parcel taken care of, the rest of the lots in this area should be the same. And so that simplifies things quite a bit. When I come to Parcel and Parcel Creation Tools, I want to change the settings to that 41-foot width. That's my minimum. And my minimum area, still the same. And everything else looks pretty good. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch it to automatic mode. I'm going to switch it to redistribute remainder. I don't want to leave this last one bigger than the others. I'd like them to be the same, even if they're all a little bit bigger than 7,800 square feet. That makes a little more sense. I'm going to come over here to slide line create. Make sure my settings seem reasonable. And click on the parcel label. My frontage at this time is the remaining road frontage of this parcel. My angle will still be 90. And you can see I end up with a very nice even distribution. I'm going to accept this result. Hit escape to get out of the command, and then just double check to make everything looks good. So this lot here has a square footage of 7866, this one here 7866, even this one here 7866. Perfect. I have a nice even distribution of parcels for this area. The next grouping of parcels over here on the right are a little bit different. These are going to be 65-foot wide lots with a minimum square footage of 8,300 square feet. The beginning process is very much the same. I'm going to go to Create Parcels from Objects. I can't click on it because it's an XREF, so I'll choose XREF. And then I can click on it. And then it asks me what's it going to be. Still phase 2, but this one is going to be the 65-foot single-family home style. Parcel number is good, and I'm going to click OK. There we go. Just like the ones up above, I do have a lot here on the side that needs to be wider than the other ones, simply because of this 25-foot setback. So like before, I'm going to go to Parcel Creation Tools and give it the basic settings. 8,300 square foot minimum. In this case, I do want an 85-foot frontage because of this one single lot. Everything else I'm going to leave alone. Except I do want to place the remainder in the last parcel and go to Slide Line Create. Everything looks good except this is the wrong parcel style, and I can say OK. I'm dividing this parcel, and I'm using this frontage. Notice how my snaps are being weird. I just come over to the right a little bit more so I don't have those snaps interfering. Got that, set it to 90 degrees. Oh, it didn't find it. I may not have done it wide enough then. So, click it again. Frontage was not long enough. 90. There we go. Much better. I'll accept this result and exit the command. Just like the other one, because of the curve here, I do need to double check that everything looks good. So once again, from the intersection, I'm typing INT to do intersection, though you can do Shift right click to also pop up the OSNAP overrides. To the perpendicular, I can see it's 70 feet. That's not nearly good enough. Again, this arc distance is throwing it off. Measuring it one more time because I totally forgot what those numbers were. 70.6927. CAL for calculate. I want it to be 85 minus 70.6927. And hit enter. That lets me know I need to move it north 14.3073. Clicking on the line. Moving it up. I like to turn on ortho mode for this because I know I'm going vertical. It makes me feel like I'm doing it better. 14.3073. And let's just hope I remembered those numbers. So again, I'm going to double check it. Intersection to perpendicular. Oh, super close. Can't have that, so I'll move it one more time. 0.0001. There we go. Let's see if that fixed it. Much better. My client's pretty particular about these numbers being rounded off. With that done, the remainders are again going to be done the same way we did with the rest. Parcel creation tools. These are going to have 65-foot minimum widths. They are going to be redistributed, just like before, and slide line create. Settings look good. Choose the parcel I want to subdivide, and again, the frontage that I want is the end point right there, all the way to this end point. Angle I want is 90 degrees, and let's take a look at it. Looks pretty good. Let's hit enter and double check it. Each one of these. Ooh, 9,300 square feet. That actually seems quite a bit too much. And taking a look at the count of parcels that I had previously, I actually have one fewer parcel than I did in my original, which is no good. So I'm going to get rid of those and try it again. Going back to the parcel creation tools, I'm going to change a couple of settings here. I'm going to say 8,000 square feet. Since I'm redistributing the remainder, this might give me a better value than what I had when they're redistributed. I'll try slide line create again. Endpoint to endpoint. And let's see what that looks like. Do we have any differences? Let's find out. 9,300 square feet. About the same, huh? Computers are fun, and sometimes they don't give you the things exactly the way you want them, so I'm going to try it a different way. I'm going to go back to parcel creation tools, and instead of doing redistribute remainder, I'm going to put the remainder, create a parcel from the remainder, just to see what happens. I'm going to come back here to slide line create. Settings look good. Pick my parcel, and again, I'm going to go from endpoint here up to here. Now this is going to make much narrower parcels that are exactly 8,000 square feet. I'm going to say yes and accept that and get out of it. And I'm going to check this guy. What does this leftover piece end up with? Oop, not parcel properties, regular properties. 8,500 square feet. That looks pretty darn good. Let's check this one. 8,250. This seems much more reasonable. Now, why did it come with 8,200 when I told it to be 8,000? Well, it's still having to get the minimum frontage area. And if I check this here, you can see it's exactly 65 feet, which is what I want. This will work very nicely. These parcels in the middle are going to be quite a bit different. These are going to be townhomes, and I'm going to subdivide them in a different way. I'm going to go to parcel still, create parcels from objects, and choose XREF. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to grab all three of these because you don't have to do them one at a time. This will still be phase 2, and this will be what's called the 20-foot townhome parcel. And say OK. Now this one is going to be a little bit different because I know that these parcels are going to be divided directly in the middle. I could try to get the settings right, but honestly, it's kind of a headache to get the settings right, but you can easily go up to Parcel Creation Tools, and do what's called a freeform. When I start the freeform create option, it does let me pick the settings that I want. And really all I have to do is find the midpoint of this. And there we go. Come over here to this next one, click the midpoint, type in 90 for my angle, and do the same thing for this. Again, it's going to be 90 degrees from this. And it's going to split my larger parcels up into two even parcels on the north and south, just like you see here. While the name of the parcel is 20-foot townhome, we're actually putting 2 on each lot with sidewalks and other things between them. And so after doing a little bit of math, after taking a look at the preliminary design, I know that I want 74 feet here, and the rest will be evenly divided. So again, I'm going to go to Parcel Creation Tools and set some settings. So I want a minimum frontage of 74 feet. Everything else looks good. I do want to change this to create parcel from remainder. So it just sticks everything else in the end. And again, go to slide line create. Settings look good. I'm going to select this one. Go from about the middle to say here and see what happens. That's what I want. Great. Yes. Now, I do need to come through here and edit this. So I'll get out of it for a moment and just check and make sure it's actually 74 feet. It's probably not going to be. 79.365, calculate 79.365 minus 74, which is what I want. I need to move it to the right, 5.365. So I'll do that, 5.365. I'll double check that distance one more time. 74 feet, perfect. Now I could go ahead and subdivide these, but these special ones on the end might be more handy if I just go ahead and take care of all of them at once. When I come to these other ones, instead of doing it as a slide line, I can do a freeform. If I set this up, freeform lets me divide multiple parcels at once. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and hit enter and go to the next one and make sure that white line is in the right direction. Click and hit enter. Come to the next one. Click and hit enter. Click and hit enter. And click and hit enter. Hit escape to get out of that. And I can see most of these should be lined up. I do want to double check. Boop to boop. Oop. Helps if I actually click it. You know, sometimes this perpendicular O-snap is getting in my way. I'm going to turn these off so I just have endpoints. And let's just double check it now. Much better. 74. Let's check this one. 74. Because it was finding it was lined up with the ones above it, it should be okay. And you can see, I've got a little bit of an offset here. Well, that's pretty easy to fix. So for this one here, I need to give it a little bit of a helping hand. Let's see here. It's 9515. 1 minus 0.9115. 0.0885. Hooray. 0.0885. And let's just make sure once more that I remembered those numbers properly, which, yeah, I didn't. So 0.04 to the right. No problem. Much better. I'll just zoom into all these, make sure everything looks good. And great. We've got our special ones done. And now the rest of them are going to go really quick. I have a default width that I want here, at least 60 feet, maybe a little bit smaller. I'm going to redistribute the remainder across all of them, and slide line create. Click on the label, define the frontage, and hit enter. Done. Click on this one, divide the frontage, define the frontage, enter, enter, done. Click the next one. And you can see it goes pretty darn rapidly. All these are going to have the exact same width. Oop, if it goes the wrong way, just make sure that rail line is defining your frontage. And here we go for the last one. Easy enough. Again, I want to double check everything seems pretty reasonable. Let's see here. We've got 655465, which should be the same as this one, which should be the same for this one, which should be the same for all these down here. And they are. Marvelous. Skipping ahead, don't worry, I'm not going to do all 500 parcels in this video. I come across an area where I need to make an adjustment. Having the boundary lines come off at 90 degrees to the frontage isn't working in this case. So I need to rotate this. In order to do that, I can't just click on this. It just keeps it at that 90-degree angle. So what I need to do is I need to come back to the parcel creation tools. And instead of using a slide line, I'm going to do a swing line that allows me to adjust the angle pretty easily. And since I'm not creating one, I want to edit one. I'll choose that instead. Again, it's going to check and make sure I'm using the right phase and the parcel and all that fun stuff. That looks good. And then ask me to select the lot line I want to adjust. Well, it's this one. It asks me which one of these parcels I actually want to adjust. It honestly doesn't matter. I'm going to pick this one. And then it asks me to define my frontage. I need to do the frontage for both lots. The next thing it asks me is the swing point. I'm actually okay with this point being where it starts. And then it asks me to where does it go next. When I select that, it's going to reconfigure. It asks me if I like the way it looks, and I'm going to say yes. And there we go. I should probably validate my settings, make sure it kept everything the way it should be. And I've got the correct square footage, and everything looks good. Sometimes you realize after the fact that you made a mistake. Changing parcels is pretty simple. The outside edge is a single parcel, but these individual divisions can be selected and deleted. Once they're deleted, you can redivide the parcels so that you get the parcel size you actually want. We'll just fast forward through this part. Ready for action, nip it in the bud, we never relaxing, downcast and everlasting, not clashing, not at all, can see my player want to do a little acting, that's for anyone. One thing you've noticed is I haven't paid any attention to the actual numbering of the parcels. As I make new parcels and erase parcels I don't like and put them in there, it's just going to come up with a number, and it's going to be wrong. The renumbering process we'll be doing at the very end, and it's very simple. For now, I'm going to go around and finish the rest of phase 2. Yeah, in Stomp National, on the ground, thunder pounds when I stomp the ground. Whoop, like a million other fences, silverback, orangutan, you can't stop a train. Who wants some, don't come, I'll be prepared, I'll be there, but when I leave there, better be a household name. With them and tell us it ain't gonna rain, so now we're sitting in a drop top soaking wet. Sometimes the automatic doesn't give me what I want. Come through here and I use the same settings I've been using. Big slide line. And I come over here and do this whole thing. And I end up with something that's weird. This is not really acceptable. So I'm going to say no. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and switch over to place remainder and last parcel. See what that does. We're getting close. I rather like these three. I'm okay with that. But this right here is a bit of a problem. I'm going to say yes, though. Because the issue is really this line right here. So a couple of changes I'm going to make to this one. First off, I want to bring this guy down here to this endpoint. I think that'll make a cleaner lot line. I can also see I've got way too much space here, so I'm just going to check that. From here to the intersection of here, and I can see I've got, 74 feet, which is way too wide. So I'd pull this back another, let's say 20 feet. That gets me a little bit closer to what I want. Let's check it one more time. 62 feet. I'm only looking for 41 here. So again, I'm going to pull it back another 21 feet. And I'll end up with a much more buildable lot along the process.
Penelope and Cruz couldn't snooze with eyes wide shut before I asked to hit her gut. If you're brunette and legally blonde, I might respond. Take it to Swan Lake and beyond. Antoine raps off, raps on, clap off, clap on. I switch the flow quick again, not fathom. I take the submarine 2,000 leagues below the sea and try to grab one line and sentence rhymes with it's fine. The endless persistent, give him a clean bill of health. Well, it might make you look good.
Getting cul-de-sacs to come in the right size that you want can be a little tricky. For this one right here, the automatic layout gave me something like this because it's measuring the frontage along this, when technically in this municipality the frontage is measured upon the setback. And so I can actually split this one up. To do so, I'm going to go back to the parcel. And I'm going to try a frame form create. And you can see it's not going to give me something that I particularly like, but I'm going to go with it for now. And now I can actually adjust where that should be. So I'm going to use the nearest O-snap and say it's going to be something like this. Then I want to double check the sizes of these. I suspect they're going to be a little bit off. Oop. Properties, not parcel properties. There you are. So that's 10,000. This is, it's actually not too bad. I think what I will do is I'll move this just a little bit over, splitting it more in half. I feel like it would be a better one. But you can see that this angle is still a little bit off. Now I could go back and erase this and redo it now that I know kind of where I want to go. But I could also do this. I could come back to Parcel. I can do a swing line edit. I select the line I'd like to adjust. I pick the parcel I want to adjust, and then I pick the frontage for both of them. This will make sure these calculations are applied. Now to detect where I want the swing to start, and now I decide where I want it to go, somewhere about here perhaps. Nearest is your friend for that one. And you can see it recalculates everything. I'm looking at this, I'm not quite happy with it, so I'm going to switch it back to create parcel on that, see if I like that. Yeah, I think that'll work quite a bit better. Taking a look at the properties of this now, I can see that I'm at 7,000 here, which is more than enough. I'm at 9,000, I can't subdivide this one anymore, so this will work. Similarly, for this one here, I've got a gigantic parcel, but unfortunately, because of the amount of frontage I have here, I can't divide it very much. I've got 28,000 square feet here, but I've only got 124 feet of frontage space, which might seem like enough here, but when I come here to the street, I've only got 77 feet of arc space. So I can really only put 2 parcels here. Otherwise, I won't have room for a driveway. So I'm going to come back over here to Parcel Creation Tools, and this time, just use a freeform. If I place it right here, come here to the midpoint, pick that, and something like that. That'll be a pretty reasonable setup. This last one here, I'm going to actually get a pretty good self-division here, but it's these curved frontages oftentimes give me issues. So I'm going to start with my Parcel Creation Tools with my normal thing. I'm going to place a remainder in the last parcel, do slide line, and when I do this, I'm not going to go all the way through, because if I do, I'm going to end up with something like this, which is obviously pretty terrible. So I'm going to say no. And instead, I'm only going to do part of the frontage, the part that I think I'm going to get a reasonable section for. And you can see, okay, that works a little bit better. I need to do some adjustment over here, but that at least gets me close. Doing some cleanup on this area right here. Again, I can see that, I've got the square footage that I need, but this is just too pie-shaped to work with. So I'm going to start the Parcel Creation Tool command. I'm going to come over to Swing Line Edit. I want to edit this lot line with this parcel. This is my overall frontage. I'm going to change the settings here to redistribute it. I actually want to come right about here, where I want that to be. And something about like that. Yeah, I like that much better. I feel like that'll be a much more buildable lot. For the rest of this, I'm just going to verify that these are big enough and make some adjustments. When it comes to this area here, I'll probably get started by doing some freeform creations, something like that. Another one like that, maybe. I'm going to have to play with this one. This is a difficult lot to build on, and I'll make some minor adjustments manually here. One of the things I do like to do is try, whenever possible, to make these hit junction points, so I have a less complicated parcel definition. So here, I'm going to adjust this one, setting up this, and I'm going to start here and try to end up here. I like that a lot better. Oh no! And it decided to do something stupid. Hey, this is a thing that happens. Control-Z will take it back. RE will regenerate everything to make it the right spot. And sometimes it's just going to be a jerk like this. So what you can do is you can come over here and go to Parcel Creation Tools and do a freeform. I'm going to start it right here and then tell it to go right here. It's going to give me a little tiny parcel that isn't correct, but that's not a huge deal. I can come over here, delete this one, and now everything's fine. I'm going to do a similar technique wherever I come across weird settings here. Trick you might find very nice. If I draw a circle at this area and type in the radius of how far I want it, I can actually get a better picture of where these things have to line up in order to meet my section. So I know if I'm a little bit north of this, I'm going to have a line that's that same frontage length that I need. This will give me a guide so I don't have to do quite as much effort to get the kind of parcel that I'm looking for. This also will let me know there's not a whole lot that I can do with this one. I just don't have the frontage for it. So I'll make a final adjustment to this guy, make him a little bit wider and into him here so I have a cleaner parcel. Such is life, you're always limited by the actual geometry of the project. Sometimes it's a jerk to you, and you gotta start over. And I think that'll work mostly for this area here. Little changes here. I will make some final edits to clean it up a little bit. And then I'll go on to phase 2. For this last parcel, I've got a weird setup simply because I was a little lazy. Rather than dividing it up into subparcels, I decided to just do one big one, which leads to a little bit of weird geometry. Whenever I have weird geometry, I take care of it in a similar way we've seen before. I start with my Parcel Creation Tools, and I come through with a freeform create. I want to make sure this one right here, I'm in phase 3 now, at least fits a home that I have here. It's going to be a 50 by 30 home, and that seems pretty reasonable. Then I switch back to the slide line create like normal, and I'm going to subdivide this one up to a certain point. I'm going to come right about here. That looks pretty good. I'd like to have one more here, actually. Let's just go to here for now. Much better. Now for the rest, I've got the depth here. I can actually split this in half. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to come back to my freeform create, and I'm going to start at the midpoint of this one as my start point. Then I'm going to aim it to split it right in half. Something like this. Now I can go back to swing line create and finish up the rest of it. After finishing all the automatic layout for these parcels, I did have a couple that were weird that I had to place the building pad and make some adjustments to make sure everything fit. Some manual updates, not that big a deal. I used the tools we've already seen, freeform create, swing line edit, and things like that to make sure that every single parcel was buildable, and that didn't take very long. Finally, the last part of this is going to be renumbering all the parcels. Coming back over here, I can see that the phase 1 ended at lot number 18. Being able to take care of this is pretty straightforward. If I click on an existing parcel, my ribbon updates to the parcel editing ribbon, and I can see there's a renumber and rename. Those of you who watched this and said, hey, clearly this doesn't start at 19 because 19 is right there. Yeah, I noticed that at the end and renumbered it again. Took about 2 minutes. Not a big deal. When I start this, I'm going to set my phase. I'm in phase 2 again. My starting number in this case is 19. I want to increment it every 1 value. And I'm going to say OK. Then I click a line. The line starts is where the numbering begins. And you can see I can easily go around the whole area. Let's see here. There's the end of phase 2. I'll finish those right there. And when I hit enter, all those get renumbered without too much difficulty. I'll continue renumbering the other ones real quick. It won't take very long. Trying to rename this one to 81, and it's not letting me. Even if I try to do it manually, it's just not happening. So I went over to my prospector and I expanded phase 2 site and expanded parcels, and I can see, okay, there's a townhome that's already numbered 81. I can't change one to a number that's already there. If I right click on this parcel, I can go to zoom to and I can see, okay, there's where the issue is. So real quick, I'm just going to start that command again. Renumber, rename. I'm actually in phase 2. That would make things quite a bit better. Starting with 2000 now. And there we go. Now that those have been renumbered, I can come back to where I encountered my issue. This should be 81. Phase 2. 81 is my starting number. And there we go. It works no problem. Hit enter to repeat the command like always. Oop, I don't know which one it is. That is 120 was my last number. Switch to the right phase. It does remember that the last number I used was 121. And so I can come through here and renumber the rest. The last thing I need to do here is set the parcel numbers for the townhouses. Now, I call them townhouses. Really, they're duplexes. And what we decided to do was to show each one of these lots as 2 individual numbers. And of course, I don't want to manually do this. I'm far too lazy for that. Over in the Settings tab, I expanded the parcel section, expanded the area. And if you need to get a value that Civil 3D doesn't give you, you can write an expression. By clicking on this, you can see I've made an expression called duplex number. And the process for that was just go to New, give it a name, Don't really need to give it a description here because I don't really feel like it. When it comes to the expression, I want to grab a property. And you can see parcel number +1. That's it. The new expression shows up down here. It's the same as the one I already have. Then I come up to my area and I made a new area label just by right-clicking on it, say new. In this case, I'm just going to show you what this one looks like. In the layout tab, I go to contents and click this, and you can see I've got my parcel number, which was found in that properties. I have my duplex number, which now that I show it as an expression, you'll see duplex number 2 is here. You push the arrow to push the value back into it and say OK. So now you can see this new label style takes the parcel number that I'm going to use the renumber tool to give it, adds a number 1 to it, which fills in the second value, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So the process for this is going to be renumber and rename. Starting from 167, this time I'm going to increment value of 2. When I select that, you can see the regular parcel numbers go up by a value of 2. And now I just have to swap these parcel types, these label tags. And the way I'm going to do that is to just do a window around the whole thing. Come over to properties and tell it to just look for parcels themselves. And you can see I can change the label style to the duplex parcel number. Close this out, and you can see now each one of them has a dual number without me having to do math or type any one of these in individually. Fantastic. Having finished all my renumbering, I'm just going to take a few minutes to go through and just to make sure the numbers that are in weird places are moved to more reasonable locations so that they're super clear to read and I don't have to worry about it later. All in all, to do over 500 lots, this took me a little less than an hour, and that includes recording and all that fun stuff, which always takes a little bit longer. I still have to go through and just double check here and there, which will probably take another 20 minutes, but that's it for today. If this helped you out, click the like button. If you'd like to see more tips like this, definitely hit subscribe, and if you've got some other random questions that you've come up with, leave them in the comments. I'd love to take a look at it. And of course, if you're interested in our AutoCAD, Revit, Inventor, Fusion 360, MicroStation, Civil 3D, SketchUp, or 3ds Max classes, check us out at atkinstechconsulting.com. As always, I'm David, and happy CADing.